Divorce is one of the most challenging transitions in life, and without the right guidance, it can quickly turn into a disaster. Welcome to Dodging Divorce Disasters, the show that helps you navigate the legal, financial, and emotional pitfalls of divorce before they happen. In each episode, I sit down with a top professional in the divorce community to hear real-life war stories, cautionary tales from the trenches of divorce. But I won't leave you with just the horror stories. The experts will break down exactly what went wrong and, more importantly, how you can avoid making the same mistakes. Whether you're in the early stages of separation, deep in the process, or supporting someone through it, we are here to help you move forward with clarity, confidence, and fewer regrets. I'm your host, Lori Hawkins, and I am a local expert in divorce real estate. I am so excited to be sharing these incredible professionals with you. Let's dive in. I am so excited today because I actually have a new friend. I would consider you a new friend to me. His name is Andrew Hatherley, and we are thrilled. I am thrilled to have you on my podcast today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Lori. I'm thrilled to be here.
Well, I have got to tell you that I was thrilled also because Andrew has his own podcast, the Gray Podcast, and you were kind enough to ask me to be a guest on there talking about gray divorce when it comes to selling the home. And we'll get more into that as we get into it. But thank you so much again for having me on your podcast. It was a thrill to be on the other side of the mic and asking questions. But what I'm going to let you do, if you don't mind, is just tell us your company name, a little bit about what you do, and maybe the area that you can service clients and that type of thing.
Sure, Lori. And, it was a thrill having you on the Great Divorce podcast as well a couple
Thank you.
weeks ago. Bringing your divorce real estate expertise was added a lot of value to the podcast. So thanks again for that. So about me, well, I'm a financial advisor. But I'm a financial advisor who specializes in people working through divorce, either the before, during, or after period, really focusing on people maybe approaching retirement, the gray divorce population, which is typically people over the age of 50. Now, I'm a certified divorce financial analyst because it may not surprise you that what led to my focus on older divorcees was my own divorce at age 52, which was several years ago. And so upon getting divorced, I made a few mistakes during that process, which kind of inspired me to teach other people how to avoid those mistakes. And so I earned the CDFA, Divorce Financial Analyst credential, and formed a complementary business to my financial advisory practice called Wiser Divorce Solutions. So with Wiser Divorce Solutions, I work with people as a consultant before and during divorce. And with Transcend Retirement, I'm a financial advisor helping people rebuild the foundation for, a good life after divorce.
Nice. Now, with these credentials, do you just work in a particular city? Where can your clients be found?
All over the country.
Okay.
At the moment, I'm based in Las Vegas, Nevada. I have a vacation home in just north of Greenville, South Carolina. So I've been spending a lot of the summer there avoiding the blistering Las Vegas heat. But I've dealt with clients from many different states, north, east, southwest, around the United States. So if you go to the Great Divorce podcast, you can get a hold of me if you're going through a divorce and want a free 30-minute consultation. I'd be happy to chat with anybody who's going through the process.
Well, that's nice. Well, that's good to know because, a lot like for me as a realtor, I'm only licensed in North and South Carolina. So I can really only sell homes in North and South Carolina. So it's good to know that really it doesn't matter where anyone is. You can help them from wherever they are located. That's good to
Definitely. And
know.
I'm building my network of attorneys around the country. So, it's, whether you're getting divorced in, North Dakota or Massachusetts or Virginia, I'm trying to find attorneys who can help people all over the country as well.
Yeah, that's neat. That's neat. Well, I always ask everyone, I always like to start with a fun fact about our guest, and I ask you to supply me with one, and I love yours. It says that you were born in England. That is so cool. You were born in England, you got your master's in Spanish in Barcelona, and you also lived in Mexico.
Yeah,
So you've just kind of been everywhere.
yeah, a bit of a traveling guy. But funnily enough, I've been in Las Vegas for the last nearly 27 years. So
Wow.
I haven't been in one place this long all my life. But yes, I was born in England. My dad was in the Navy, and he joined the Canadian Navy, and we ended up moving to Canada. And then when it was time for me to go to university, I was very interested in Latin America at the time, so I did some traveling in Mexico and Central America. And when it was time for me to get my master's, I decided to get my master's in business administration. I was a history graduate, but I figured master's in business might be a little more practical.
Mhm.
And so I got my master's in business at McGill University in Montreal, but the second year was an exchange program with a private business school in Barcelona. And the curriculum was all in Spanish. So I had to learn Spanish if I was going to get my MBA. So that was a challenge, but it was a great experience because I spoke some Spanish beforehand, but it really upped my game doing the second year of my MBA in Spanish. And as a result of that, I ended up working for a couple of years in Mexico City.
That is so cool. So I totally misunderstood. Your master's is not in Spanish. The course was business
Of course, it was
administration.
in
It was
Spanish.
in Spanish.
Yeah.
Okay, I admire you even more. That is even a greater feat. Man, I cannot believe that you took on the Spanish language and took courses in Spanish.
Well,
Kudos to you.
I spoke a little beforehand, and 2 months before the MBA started, I think it was September. So I was in Barcelona in June, learning Spanish to the best of my ability.
That is amazing. Okay, so now you do work with attorneys when people are going through divorces and you help them through all that. And I know you kind of are focused, your niche is kind of in the gray divorce, which is for people over 50. But what dodging divorce disasters, right? That's the name of this podcast. So, is there a story that you can tell or practical advice that you can give that you have seen someone else make a disaster? And perhaps whoever's listening to this, with this advice, they could actually dodge that divorce disaster.
Right. Well, I was thinking about this, and really, I have to look at myself because it was the mistakes I made. And it's really humbling because here I am, an MBA, a financial advisor for many years before I got divorced, but I was so ignorant about the financial implications or the way divorce worked for your financials. Considering that divorce is likely the largest financial transaction in your life, it's really kind of silly of me not to appreciate how divorce works, the legal process works in affecting your financials. And so with me, my particular mistake or disaster was I actually was separated in 2008, but we didn't get divorced until 2015, 7 years later. Well, anybody who knows about the way divorce works knows that, well, the clock's ticking as far as alimony is concerned because you're still married. So that's another, although we're not together, that's another
Mhm.
8 years of alimony clock ticking. But more importantly than that is that when we split up, I was pretty much an employee, a wage employee. But then after we split up, I started my own business. And because we're still married, according to the community property laws in the state of Nevada, she was entitled to half of the business. So these are really boneheaded mistakes. And I don't think there were so much mistakes as maybe we just didn't want to face up to the fact that we were going to want to get divorced or didn't want to face up to the fact of let's get it done now. It was like procrastinating, putting it aside, everything's fine. And we had some other business interests and we got along pretty well, but it was silly to delay and it was financially costly to delay as well. So having gone through this experience, I can say unequivocally that the best piece of advice I can offer to anyone contemplating divorce or in the early stages is to get educated as much as possible about how the divorce process works in your state, about the impact it'll have on your finances, because really divorce is about money. It's a legal process, but it's about money. And when I say learn about the various ways you can get divorced, maybe we'll get into this a little bit later, but it's not all, lawyer up. I do think it's very important to have legal counsel during divorce, but when people say lawyer up, it's typically related to a very litigious, contentious process, and there are a lot of alternatives to that. And I'm optimistic that more and more people are seeing the different ways to get divorced. I didn't know about that. I didn't know about when I got divorced. I didn't know about mediation, collaborative divorce. I certainly didn't know about the Amicable Divorce Network, and maybe we could talk about this divorce
Yeah.
Bible that I was involved with.
Yes.
Different processes, new processes like Soul Agree. There's so many different ways to get divorced other than the contentious process. And so many attorneys are fed up with it too. So many attorneys are fed up with the emotional and financial distress that people are going through in the litigated process, that they're committed to doing it in a more peaceful, civilized way.
Right.
For my divorce, wasn't really a disaster, but it was a mistake. And I just decided, let's help people avoid the financial mistakes. Let's help people lessen the emotional and financial stress of the process. And a very important part of my podcast and my work with people is let's help people build and grow from this life experience and become more positive, purposeful members of society, happier people too.
Right. I couldn't agree with you more. I did not have anyone on my team, my divorce team, when I got divorced myself, except for my attorney. And even though she was great, I realize now that I would be in a better position financially if I had come to you or a CDFA or some type of financial advisor. I probably would have gotten through this a lot faster if I had hired a therapist. I probably would have had a better plan if I had hired a divorce coach. But at the time, when you don't understand what all these people do, which is one reason that I am doing this podcast, is I am interviewing everyone to show what their role is and that it is worth the money, because I know money's tight. When you're going through a divorce and you think that you can't handle those extra expenses, and I understand that. But you guys save us, the people that are going through a divorce, so much money by helping us make better decisions. So I am
Yeah.
so
And that's it. People are full of fear when they're going through divorce. In many cases, not always, but in many cases, people are very fearful, and they're fearful about losing a lot of money. And so the idea of adding divorce team members beyond, everybody knows about attorneys in divorce, but they're less aware of divorce financial analysts such as myself. Maybe they have preconceived notions about therapists and mental health professionals. They may not even know about divorce coaches or divorced real estate
Right.
specialists, divorce lending specialists. But the thing is, really it startles some people, but it's less expensive to bring these professionals on
Exactly.
than it is to expect an attorney who's typically the highest paid member of your divorce team, $400 or $500 an hour or more. Why have the divorce professional practicing mental health, practicing financial analysis?
You're so
Let a
right.
therapist at maybe a third the rate or a financial professional at half the rate do that work, and let the attorney focus on the legal aspects.
I probably say this on every podcast that I do, but I have learned, and it makes sense, everyone cannot be experts in every field. That's why we all specialize in these separate fields. And there is a reason that when you get a divorce, you go to a divorce attorney. You don't go to a bankruptcy attorney. You don't go to a real estate attorney, because those people, those attorneys just know things that can help you get through this and minimize your problems along the way, and that's what the rest of us do. But until really I got into this niche, I didn't realize it either. So that's great advice though. I totally agree. Well, let's kind of jump into this whole gray divorce thing, because I find it so interesting. So many of my clients that I work with selling their home, I find fall into this gray divorce. Now, in selling their house, it doesn't make a lot of difference, but I'm sure it does on the planning on the money side of it. So, kind of give us an idea of what it means for these people. And I could almost expect that maybe this may sound biased, but maybe the women are more impacted than maybe the men are at this age? Tell us a little bit about that. Give us from your perspective.
Yeah. Well, to take the broad view, the real significance of gray divorce, which is now about more than a third of the people getting divorced currently are over the age of 50, whereas less than 10% like 30 years ago. And the key implication is that you have less time to recover financially when you're older. You may be approaching retirement, and you may have had assumptions about how much money you're saving for retirement and how you're going to live the rest of your life. And divorce can throw a wrench in those plans. All of a sudden, half of your net worth, you're splitting the marital net worth is being split into two households, and it may be difficult to retire at 60 or 65 or 70 or whenever you had planned to. Some recalculations need to be made. And some recalculations in the mind need to be made as well. And this is an important part of my planning process, which has been called life-centered planning, where you put the person's, and I just did a podcast episode on this, by the way, if anyone's interested in learning more about this. But money is obviously very important, but you have to recalibrate the purpose of money in building a happy life for yourself after divorce. And maybe it's less about things and material possessions, and it's more about experiences and finding meaning in your work. So that's a whole nother area of what I do. But certainly with the gray divorce happening later in life, there's also health concerns in many cases. So that can play a part of the issue. You mentioned the effect of late life divorce on women. Well, in many cases, women have given up careers to raise a family. In many cases, still in society, they're not paid as much for the same work as men. They may not have health insurance. Ageism exists for both men and women, but it may hit a woman harder if she's in her 60 or 65 and hasn't worked for 20 or 30 years to try and get back in the labor force. I mean, it's hard for men too. It's sometimes say that ageism is somehow has remained an acceptable prejudice in society. I don't know why, but it's there. So those are kind of key issues dealing with befalling people with great divorce. And with women, you're right. Studies have shown that a woman's standard of living may decrease on average up to 45% after late life divorce. It goes down for men too. I mean, it's a misnomer to say that men, it's all peachy keen with men. I know, I went through it. There were some lean patches there. But with men, the fact numbers, recent research have shown a 21% drop in standard of living. With men, tends to hit more, divorce and late life divorce tends to hit more on the social aspect, which is an important aspect of happiness, because happiness is not just about money. But incidences of, alcohol addiction, other addictions, suicide, deterioration in family relationships with children, these all tend to hit men harder than women. Now, it's not exclusive on either side. Women go through the social pains of divorce, as do men, but that tends to hit men harder, whereas the financial impact, studies have shown, tends to hit women harder.
No, that totally makes sense. Well, at what point should someone reach out to you? Like if they are contemplating going through a divorce, should they go to their attorney first and have the attorney refer you? How should all of that work for anybody listening thinking, I might need help, with my finances? What's the order? How should they get to you?
I would argue come to me first, or a good divorce coach first, because we have networks of attorneys that we work with. And I can pretty much gauge through a half-hour discussion. As I said, I do a free complimentary half-hour strategy session with people who reach out to me. And I can tell whether this person may be a good candidate for mediation, or maybe amicable divorce, or collaborative divorce, or sole agree, or whether this is going to be a contentious case. There are legal issues, maybe some sort of abuse, financial abuse, spousal abuse, physical abuse, that maybe this will be more of a traditional, more court-directed process. And so I know attorneys who work in all these different areas, but you don't want to make the mistake of being, let's say you and your husband, I'm chatting with a lady, and her husband, they get along. They just don't want to live the rest of their life together. They want to split, but they want to do it as amicably as possible. If they went to an attorney first, and that was a shark attorney who really works at court directed cases that often go to trial, then what could have been a relatively stress-free, financially less onerous process can go south. And that's really what I want to try and help people avoid. And a good divorce coach will be able to recognize these situations too, and refer attorneys that are best suited for your particular divorce. And I always recommend a few attorneys so that you could chat with them, because it's important to work with somebody that you feel comfortable with. In the legal field, that the criminal justice system sees bad people on their best behavior. And what I mean by that is, gang members with tattoos on their forehead, but they go into court and they're wearing a suit and tie, and they're, yes, Your Honor, no, Your Honor, and they've got a dagger tattooed on the side of their face.
Right.
Whereas the family law system sees good people or normal people at their worst behavior because they're so fearful about the process, maybe not educated about it. And unfortunately, in many cases, some attorneys tend to throw fuel on the fire, which can bring the process down in the sense of increasing costs and increasing emotional stress. Not all attorneys. And thankfully, there are many, many attorneys out there fed up with the litigious process, which has its place. As I said, it has its place. But in many cases, divorce can be done free of rancor and at far less cost.
Yeah, I could not agree with you more. I had no idea, once again, going back to my own divorce. A lot of us think that what we see on TV is how our divorce is going to be, because
Exactly.
that's the only thing we see. That's the only thing we know. We're not in this world of family law and divorce and that type of thing. I had no idea what a collaborative divorce was. I had no idea what mediation was. There was so many things that my divorce was over and done with before I learned all of this. I don't know, would I have even done anything differently? Probably not in my situation, but still I would have known the options, which is one reason I love Second Saturday. We've discussed this off camera before, and I know you used to be a part of Second Saturday, which I am here in the Lake Norman area, because it is a very good way to gain knowledge about things that you just don't know. But let's jump onto your podcast, because what you told me, has it been 3 years that you've been doing this podcast now?
October 2025 will be the 3rd anniversary.
That's amazing. We'll see if my podcast lasts 3 years.
Yes, it will.
3 years plus. But what made you start doing this? Where can people find it? Tell us a little bit about that, and what can people get from this? What do they need to be looking for to come to the Great Podcast?
Well, when I really decided to focus on the gray divorce niche for my financial planning practice and my divorce consulting practice, that was about 4 years ago. And having listened to many podcasts, I thought, this would be a very good way to educate people about all the various issues, financial, emotional, real estate. There's so many different topics. This would be a good way to educate people about the podcast and to get my name out there so that people can reach out to me and work with me either before, during, or after divorce. So I decided in the summer of 2022 to start a podcast. And, I just found a couple of really good sources of education. Everything's all about, comes back to education for me in everything I do. But sometimes with education, you can experience analysis paralysis. So I determined not to do that. And of course, perfect is the enemy of done, as we all know that expression. And so I said, I found a very good article, 10 Steps to Starting a Podcast. And I think it was on Buzzsprout. And I just checked off those 10 steps one by one. And if you do it in a calm, methodical manner, I had a podcast up and running in about a month.
That's amazing. What was that again? Maybe I need to look that up. I'm just kidding.
No. Buzzsprout is a podcast hosting service. And also shout out to some friends of mine who who have a podcast, Proud Mouth, Matt Halloran and Kirk Lowe, and they help people podcast too. And they have on their website tons of free information about podcasting. So between Proudmouth and Buzzsprout and the like the 10 steps,
Yeah.
I just got it done. And so it's been a tremendous experience because I think if anyone out there is interested in getting a podcast started, don't think that it's going to be an overnight success and that clients are going to be beating a path to your door immediately, or that certainly you're going to be monetizing it and making tons of money. I haven't even thought about monetizing. As far as I'm concerned, that wasn't a goal of mine.
Right.
Making money from the podcast, that's still not a concern of mine. It was always about getting the information out there and what do I wish I had at my disposal.
Exactly. We're coming from the same place there.
So it's been great because there's so many different things to talk about. Since I'm on the board of advisors for the Institute for Divorce Financial Analysts, and I'm also the financial chair for the Amicable Divorce Network. And I want to give a shout out to the Amicable Divorce Network.
Yeah, I want to know more about that. Kind of work that into this too.
Sure. So it was founded in Georgia, and so they have a very big presence in Georgia and the Southeast, but we've got a great chapter in Nevada. Texas is a booming chapter as well. Pennsylvania, all great chapters. So it's growing around the country. And if anybody wants to learn more about the Amicable Divorce Network and find those types of attorneys who are vetted to be settlement-minded attorneys, you could find them on the Amicable Divorce website, divorceamicably.com. And we recently published this book, which is some people are terming the Bible of Divorce. It's on Amazon. It's like 400 plus pages. How many chapters are in here? Over 60 chapters on various subjects related to divorce. I would start there in getting educated. Certainly Second Saturdays, great. Go to Second Saturday, get the Amicable Divorce book, visit my website and other websites, listen to the podcast. All these are great ways to get educated about the divorce process and to be educated before speaking to an attorney or before speaking to a financial advisor or a realtor or a divorce coach. It's so important because you're going in there with knowledge. And so you know the right questions to ask. You know how to prepare. You don't want to be paying a family law attorney $500 an hour or a divorce financial analyst like myself $250 an hour and have all your paperwork scattered and not be organized. And this is another way that I can help people before they speak to an attorney is to get their finances organized, to get their spreadsheets together. And so they can present them to an attorney and be prepared. And that keeps the cost down.
Well, it's the best use of their time and the attorney's time. So you get the biggest bang for your buck, basically, if you go in there prepared.
And they'll enjoy working with you more. And you want to be working with someone who enjoys working with you.
You're right. You are so right about that. Well, you have just given us a lot to think about. Like I said, the Great Divorce is such a growing area of divorces, and I am thrilled that you have this podcast. After we were introduced, I went and listened to several of them, and they are very informative. Sometimes you have guests, sometimes you just do just yourself giving out information, and both of them are very informative and very entertaining to listen to. So I'm glad that you're doing that. Listen, I'm going to be putting, for those watching, I'm going to be putting all your information up, but how can people reach you if they want to reach out to you?
I would say first thing, go to the website, transcendretirement.net. The podcast is on that site and my contact information too. But if somebody wants to email me or set an appointment, they can do it through the website or just email me at andrew@wiserdivorcesolutions.com. That's plural, andrew@wiserdivorcesolutions.com. Oh, and I should say, I recently published this guide. It's a 12-page guide to great divorce. And I'd be happy to send a PDF to anybody who's interested. Just email me at Andrew at
Yeah, that was
wiserdivorcesolutions.com.
yeah, you sent me one of those too, and that was great. And I appreciate you sending me the book too. I flipped through it, but I have the last few months I've kind of been occupied, so I have not got to with family issues, but I have not gotten to read it yet. But I'm excited to read it and to see
Well,
what
it's
that's all
it's a
about.
big it's a big book, so
Yeah.
nobody's going to read it from cover to cover. Just pick a chapter and start there.
Gotcha, gotcha. Well, thank you so much. I can't tell you how much I appreciate, one, that we have become acquainted because you are gonna be a great resource in the field, but also for you taking the time to come on and be on my podcast today. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Lori. I enjoyed it.
All right, talk soon.
You bet.
Bye. This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. The information contained herein is not legal advice. If you need legal advice, please seek an attorney.